Stop right there! Captain Sterling's hand shot out, gripping the woman's arm as she tried to slip through the security checkpoint. The force of his pull spun her around, nearly sending the old Dell laptop in her hands crashing to the marble floor.
Begin!
Gwen Matthews steadied herself against the metal detector frame. At 42 years old, she cut an unusual figure in the gleaming halls of Marine Corps headquarters at Quantico. Her stunningly beautiful face bore Russian features, fair porcelain skin dotted with natural freckles across her cheeks and nose, a high, sharp nose bridge that gave her an aristocratic air. Her long, light brown hair was tied in a messy high bun with a few loose curls framing her face. Those captivating green eyes held a radiant, almost regal presence that seemed completely at odds with her simple attire. A fitted light gray t-shirt that had seen better days, slim dark military pants, and worn brown combat boots. "I need to get into that conference room," she said, her voice carrying an unusual rasp. "It's urgent." Sterling yanked the ID badge hanging from her neck, examining it with theatrical disgust. The plastic was cracked, the photo faded. "IIT support, level GS4. He turned to the 5 young Marines standing guard duty, holding the badge up like evidence of a crime. "Look at this, gentlemen. Tech support thinks she has the rank to walk into a classified security summit." The Marines laughed. One of them, a broad-shouldered private first class with a Tennessee drawl, whistled low. "Hey, it girl, the general's computer ain't broken. Why don't you head back down to the basement where you belong?" Sterling tossed the badge into the trash can beside the security desk. The plastic clattered against the metal liner. "You have no rank, no clearance, no business being here. This is the United States Marine Corps, not your help desk. Do you understand me?" "The guest list has been compromised," Gwen said, not moving from her position. "There's someone on it who shouldn't—" "Quiet!" Sterling stepped closer, using his 6'2" frame to tower over her 5'6" height. His breath carried the bitter edge of black coffee and arrogance. "You're going to turn around, walk to that elevator, to see an elevator, and go back to whatever server room you crawled out of. Or I call security and have you arrested for attempting to breach a restricted area. Your choice." Lance Corporal Rodriguez, a young Marine of Mexican descent standing post by the door, shifted his weight slightly. Something about the way the woman stood bothered him. Her feet were positioned shoulder-width apart, weight evenly distributed. It was subtle, but it was there. The stance of someone who expected conflict. Captain Sterling, Gwen's green eyes never left his face. "There are 112 people in that room, including the commandant. If you don't let me—" Sterling grabbed her upper arm and began marching her toward the elevator. "That's it. You're done." He nodded to 2 other Marines. "Peterson, Williams, make sure she gets on that elevator and doesn't come back." As they moved across the polished floor, more people began to notice. Officers in dress blues, civilian contractors, administrative staff. They all paused to watch Captain Sterling forcibly escorting the woman in the gray t-shirt. Within seconds, nearly 30 people had gathered in the main lobby, forming a loose circle of witnesses. "Is there a problem here, Captain?" A female lieutenant emerged from a side office, her name tag reading Park. She was 28, Korean-American, with sharp features and curious eyes. She looked at Gwen, and something flickered across her face. Not quite recognition, but close. "No problem, Lieutenant," Sterling said without breaking stride. "Just removing an unauthorized civilian from the secure area. She seems to think her IT badge gives her access to classified briefings." Park watched them pass, her brow furrowing. There was something familiar about the woman's walk, economical, purposeful, each step placed with precision despite being manhandled. "Wait," Gwen planted her feet, forcing Sterling to stop. "Just call General Morrison. Tell him Gwen Matthews needs to speak with him. He'll vouch for me." Sterling laughed, a harsh bark that echoed off the high ceiling. "General Morrison? A 3-star general is going to vouch for a GS4 contractor?" He looked around at the growing crowd. "Did everyone hear that? Our IT support thinks she's on a first-name basis with the deputy commandant." More laughter rippled through the crowd. Someone pulled out a phone, started recording. The scene was too good to miss. A captain putting a delusional civilian in her place. Gwen's eyes swept the room, cataloging faces, positions, exits. Her gaze lingered for a moment on a distinguished man in an expensive suit walking past. Senator Harrison, 55 years old, with silver hair and cold blue eyes. He glanced at her, and for just a fraction of a second, his step faltered. His face went pale. Then he recovered, quickening his pace toward the conference room. "Sir," Rodriguez spoke up from his position, "maybe we should at least verify." "Did I ask for your opinion, Lance Corporal?" Sterling snapped. "Stay at your post." Rodriguez fell silent, but pulled out his phone, keeping it low by his side. Something made him type into the search bar. Ghost Unit 7 Marines. The screen loaded slowly on the government Wi-Fi. Gwen noticed a display case against the far wall, containing military memorabilia from different eras. Among the items was a Colt M1911 from World War II, its steel gleaming under the LED lights. She nodded toward it. "That's a nice piece. Original?" Sterling followed her gaze and smirked. "What would you know about it? You probably think it's from a video game." "I know it's been improperly maintained," Gwen said quietly. "The mainspring is overcompressed, and someone reversed the barrel bushing during the last cleaning." The room went quieter. Sterling's smirk faded slightly. "You're joking. Want to bet?" Gwen's green eyes held steady on his. "Excuse me? You seem like a betting man, Captain. Open the case. If I can field strip that weapon in under 15 seconds, you let me deliver my message to the conference room. If I can't, I leave and never come back." Sterling looked around at the crowd. Everyone was watching now. A few more phones had appeared, recording everything. His pride was on the line. "You know what? Fine." He pulled a $100 bill from his wallet, slapped it on the security desk. "But let's make it interesting. Field strip it blindfolded in under 30 seconds, and I'll personally walk you to the conference room door." 15 seconds, Gwen corrected. "And I choose my own blindfold." Sterling laughed. "This is ridiculous, but sure, you're about to embarrass yourself in front of everyone here." He used his security override to open the display case, carefully removing the M1911. He made a show of checking the chamber, verifying it was unloaded, then placed it on the security desk. "Clock starts when you touch the weapon." Gwen pulled a faded olive drab handkerchief from her pocket. The fabric looked military issue, worn soft with age. She tied it around her eyes with practiced efficiency, the knot sitting precisely at the base of her skull. "Is she really doing this?" someone whispered. "This is insane," another voice added. Lieutenant Park stepped closer, her eyes fixed on Gwen's hands as they hovered over the weapon. There was something about the way she held them, steady, relaxed, ready. "Time starts now," Sterling announced. Gwen's hands moved. The first thing everyone noticed was the sound, metallic clicks and slides executing in perfect rhythm. Her fingers didn't fumble or hesitate. The barrel bushing turned with a precise quarter rotation. The recoil spring plug popped free. The slide came off in one smooth motion. Click, click, slide, click. 10 seconds. The barrel lifted out. The recoil spring and guide followed. The frame sat empty. 12 seconds. Then, without pausing, her hands reversed the entire process. Parts flew back together as if magnetized to their proper positions. The slide locked home with a final, decisive snap. 14.7 seconds. Gwen pulled off the blindfold, her green eyes finding Sterling's stunned face. She picked up his $100 bill, folded it into a perfect square, and tucked it into the trash can with her discarded ID badge. "Keep your money, Captain. Buy yourself some humility." The lobby erupted in whispers. Rodriguez's phone screen showed a grainy photograph from 2004. Marines in combat gear, faces obscured, with text below. "Ghost Unit 7, Force Reconnaissance, Classified." Sterling's face flushed red. "Lucky performance. That doesn't mean—" "The barrel bushing was installed backward," Gwen interrupted. "Your armorer needs retraining. In combat, that weapon would have jammed after the third round." She turned to Lieutenant Park. "Lieutenant, you look familiar. Camp Pendleton, 2018? Park's eyes widened. "The Advanced Combat Course. You were the instructor who—" She trailed off, memory clicking into place. "Oh my God." "What?" Sterling demanded. "What are you talking about?" But Park was staring at Gwen with something approaching awe. "You're the one who saved those 3 squads during the training accident. The live fire exercise that went wrong. You ran through active machine gun fire to—" "That's classified, Lieutenant," Gwen said quietly. Sterling grabbed Gwen's arm again, harder this time. "I don't care what you think you did or who you think you are. You're leaving. Now." "Captain Sterling." The voice cracked like a whip across the lobby. Everyone turned to see General Morrison entering from the main corridor. 3 stars gleamed on his shoulders. At 60 years old, he carried himself with the bearing of a man who'd spent 40 years earning respect the hard way. His steel-gray eyes swept the scene. Sterling gripping Gwen's arm, the crowd of witnesses, the field-stripped weapon reassembled on the desk. "Sir," Sterling snapped to attention, releasing Gwen. "This civilian was attempting to breach the secure conference area. I was just—" Morrison wasn't looking at Sterling. His eyes were fixed on Gwen's face, studying her features. Those distinctive Russian features, the green eyes, the way she stood. "What's happening to my IT contractor?" "Your contractor, sir?" Sterling's voice cracked slightly. "She's just a GS-4. She has no authorization to—" "Did I ask for your assessment, Captain?" Morrison stepped closer, still staring at Gwen. His coffee mug trembled slightly in his hand. Rodriguez's phone buzzed with a new search result. An old military newsletter from 2009. Lieutenant Colonel M. Matthews receives 3rd Purple Heart after Ramadi operation. Ghost Unit Commander refuses public ceremony, citing operational security. "She was trying to deliver a message about the guest list," Rodriguez spoke up, surprising everyone, including himself. "She said it was compromised." Morrison's mug slipped from his fingers. The ceramic shattered on the marble floor, coffee spreading in a dark pool. But Morrison didn't even look down. His face had gone pale. "Ghost?" The word came out as barely a whisper. "Ghost 6? The lobby went dead silent. Sterling laughed nervously. "Sir, I think you're confused. This is Gwen Matthews. She's nobody special, just IT. Captain Sterling, shut your mouth." Morrison's voice could have cut steel. He stepped closer to Gwen, his eyes searching her face. "It is you, isn't it? I heard you were dead. Everyone said, after Belgrade." "Not dead," Gwen said quietly. "Just tired." "Belgrade?" Park whispered. 2012? The embassy extraction? That was you? Senator Harrison chose that moment to try slipping out a side door. Gwen's head turned, tracking him like a radar lock. "Senator, leaving so soon? We have unfinished business from Bosnia." Harrison froze, his hand on the door handle. "I don't know what you're talking about. 1995, Srebrenica. You were military liaison then, young Lieutenant Harrison. You sold convoy routes to Serbian forces for 20,000 Deutsche Marks." Gwen's voice carried clearly across the silent lobby. 63 civilians died because of you. That's slander!" Harrison's voice pitched high. "You can't prove—" "I can," Gwen said simply. "I was there. I have the recordings." Morrison looked between them, pieces clicking together. "The guest list. He's on the list for the briefing." "Along with 2 others who shouldn't be," Gwen confirmed. "Check their credentials against the NSA database. You'll find discrepancies." Sterling's mind was spinning. "Wait, if you're really... then why are you working IT support?" "Because sometimes the best place to watch for threats is from where no one's looking," Gwen replied. She glanced at Rodriguez, noting his phone screen. "Stop searching, Lance Corporal. You won't find much. Most of it's still classified." But Rodriguez had found something else. A death notice from 2009. Staff Sergeant James Rodriguez, survived by wife and infant son. Died in arms of commanding officer after IED strike, Ramadi, Iraq. His hands shook. You knew my father?" Gwen's green eyes softened slightly. "Jimmy Rodriguez, best radio operator I ever had. He talked about you constantly. Michael, right? Said you were going to be a Marine someday, just like him." Rodriguez's eyes filled with tears. He died in Ramadi. They said his commanding officer stayed with him for 3 hours, under fire, wouldn't leave him. "He didn't die alone," Gwen said quietly. "I promised him I'd remember. I promised him you'd know he was proud of you." Lieutenant Park stepped forward. "Ma'am, at Pendleton, you taught us that rank is earned through action, not decoration. You said real leaders don't need their titles announced." Sterling was backing away now, his face cycling through confusion, fear, and embarrassment. "This is impossible. You're listed as a civilian contractor, low level. Your background check shows nothing special." "The best cover stories never do," Morrison said. He looked around the room at the 30-plus witnesses. "What you're about to hear doesn't leave this room. Understood?" Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Morrison continued. "Gwen Matthews isn't her real name. It's her cover, has been for 10 years, ever since she officially died in Belgrade. He paused, seeming to weigh his words. Lieutenant Colonel Matthews commanded Ghost Unit 7, Force Reconnaissance. The unit that doesn't exist, the operations that never happened, the soldiers who were never there. Sterling's legs seemed to weaken. Ghost Unit? Those are just stories, myths. Tell that to the 132 Marines she pulled out of Fallujah, Morrison said, or the embassy staff in Belgrade, or the POWs in Afghanistan that everyone else had written off. Rodriguez had pulled up another image, a medal ceremony photo, faces blacked out for security. But one figure stood shorter than the others, and in the uncensored corner of the image, you could just make out light brown hair. 3 purple hearts, 2 silver stars, and... He stopped reading, his voice failing him. And a Medal of Honor that was never officially awarded, Morrison finished, because the operation where she earned it never officially happened. Rodriguez's phone buzzed with an alert. Without thinking, he glanced at it, then looked up at the crowd. Does anyone else think we're witnessing something extraordinary here? I mean, if this is all true, we're standing in front of a real ghost story. What details did you notice that seemed off about her from the start? Park nodded slowly. The way she walked, the way she stood. I should have recognized it immediately. She taught us those exact movements at Pendleton. There's more, Gwen said, her voice cutting through the chatter. Senator Harrison knows why I'm really here. Don't you, Senator? Harrison was pressed against the wall now, trying to edge toward another exit. This is harassment. I'll have your job. You'll have nothing, Gwen interrupted. The poison gas canisters in the ventilation system. The 3 Serbian operatives on your guest list. The plan to eliminate the commandant and blame it on domestic terrorists. Should I continue? Morrison's hand went to his sidearm. Senator, stay exactly where you are. He pulled out his radio. Security to main lobby, now. But Harrison made a desperate break for the door. Sterling, trying to salvage some authority, moved to intercept him. Harrison pulled a ceramic knife from his jacket, the kind that could pass through metal detectors. He slashed at Sterling, who jerked backward, the blade catching his sleeve. Gwen moved. To the witnesses, it looked like she simply walked forward and Harrison fell down. But Rodriguez, standing closest, saw the truth. Her left hand deflected the knife strike, her right elbow connected with Harrison's solar plexus, and her knee dropped him to the marble floor. The entire sequence took less than 2 seconds. She kicked the knife away and placed one boot on Harrison's back, pinning him. Stay down, Senator. You're only making it worse. Sterling stared at her, his torn sleeve hanging open. He had a knife. You didn't even... Captain, Gwen said, her green eyes fixed on his. Your father was Staff Sergeant William Sterling, correct? Sterling nodded mutely. He served under me in Ramadi. Good man, tough as nails. He talked about you constantly, said you were going to be an officer someday, said you'd be better than he ever was. He never mentioned you? He couldn't. Everything we did was classified. But I can tell you this, your father saved 17 Marines in a firefight in 2008. He held a position alone for 40 minutes while I evacuated wounded. He's the reason those men went home to their families. Sterling's eyes filled with tears. He never told us. He just said he did his job. That's what the best ones always say, Gwen repeated. She looked down at Harrison, who was gasping for breath. Unlike some people who sell out their country for money, security forces flooded the lobby, weapons drawn. Morrison held up a hand. Stand down. The situation is contained. Arrest Senator Harrison on suspicion of treason and attempted murder. Full lockdown of the conference room until we can verify all attendees. As Harrison was hauled to his feet and cuffed, he snarled at Gwen. You think you've won? You have no idea how deep this goes. They'll come for you. They'll come for everyone you care about. Gwen stepped close to him, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow everyone could hear. They've been trying for 20 years, Senator. I'm still here. They're not. Harrison was dragged away, screaming about his rights, his connections, his lawyers. Morrison turned to the crowd. Everyone here is now a witness to a national security event. You'll be debriefed and asked to sign non-disclosure agreements. Anyone who refuses will be detained for further questioning. He paused. And anyone who recorded this on their phones needs to surrender those devices immediately. Several phones appeared sheepishly, handed over to security personnel. Lieutenant Park approached Gwen. Ma'am, I have to ask. The training accident at Pendleton. You ran through live fire to save my squad. You took 2 bullets pulling Martinez out. But afterward, you just disappeared. We never even got to thank you." "No thanks necessary, Lieutenant. It's what anyone would have done." "No," Park said firmly. "It's what you did. And then you went back to being invisible, being nobody, so you could keep protecting people who don't even know you exist." Rodriguez stepped forward, his phone confiscated but his questions burning. "My father, can you tell me about him? Anything?" Gwen studied the young Marine's face, seeing echoes of Jimmy Rodriguez in his features. "Your father was the bravest man I ever served with. The night he died, we were extracting a CIA asset from a hot zone. The IED hit our lead vehicle. Your father was thrown clear, but went back for the driver. He pulled him out, then went back for the gunner. That's when the secondary device went off." Rodriguez wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "They just told us he died in action. Nothing specific." "I stayed with him," Gwen continued. "He talked about you and your mother. He made me promise to watch out for you if you ever joined up. I've been keeping tabs on you since you enlisted. You're doing good work, Lance Corporal. He would be proud." "You've been watching me?" "From a distance. That's why I took this IT job when I heard you were assigned to Quantico. Sometimes guardian angels wear gray t-shirts and fix computers." Morrison cleared his throat. Ms. Matthews, we need to clear that conference room and verify everyone inside." "Already done," Gwen said. She pulled out her ancient Dell laptop, opening it to reveal a sophisticated military-grade computer hidden inside the old shell. "I've been monitoring their communications for 3 weeks. The 2 Serbian operatives are sitting in seats 14 and 37. They're carrying polymer weapons, undetectable by standard scanners. The poison gas is set to deploy at 1400 hours, in approximately 12 minutes. For the love of..." Morrison grabbed his radio. "All units, evacuate the main conference room immediately. Bomb squad to ventilation access point, Charlie 7. We have chemical weapons on site." The lobby erupted in controlled chaos as Marines rushed to execute orders. Sterling stood frozen, still processing everything he'd witnessed. Gwen turned to him. "Captain, your father wore a St. Christopher pendant, silver, worn smooth. He gave it to me the night he died, asked me to return it to his family. I've been carrying it for 11 years, waiting for the right moment." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small silver medallion on a chain. Sterling took it with shaking hands. Mom said he lost it overseas. She was heartbroken. He didn't lose it. He knew he wasn't coming back from that last mission. He wanted it safe." Gwen paused. "Your father died covering our retreat. 63 Marines made it home because William Sterling held the line. Remember that the next time you judge someone by their appearance or their job title." Sterling dropped to one knee, not in submission, but in respect. "Ma'am, I'm sorry. I was so wrong. I dishonored my father's memory with my behavior." "Stand up, Captain," Gwen said quietly. "Your father wouldn't want you on your knees. He'd want you learning from this, leading better, being better." Morrison's radio crackled. "Sir, conference room evacuated. Bomb squad has located the devices. Serbian nationals in custody. We also found surveillance equipment in the walls. Someone's been recording everything." "Harrison," Gwen said. "He was going to sell the footage to the highest bidder. A room full of America's top military minds discussing classified operations, worth millions on the black market." Park shook her head in amazement. "And you've been tracking all of this while fixing our computers and resetting our passwords?" "The best cover is one everyone ignores," Gwen replied. "No one suspects the IT support. We have access to everything. We're in every building, and everyone assumes we're harmless." Rodriguez had been thinking. "Ma'am, there are others, aren't there? Other ghosts hiding in plain sight?" Gwen's green eyes sparkled with something that might have been amusement. "What makes you think I'm the only one who officially died in Belgrade?" Before anyone could respond, Morrison's radio crackled again. "General, we have a problem. The chemical devices are armed with a dead man's switch. If we try to disarm them, they'll detonate. We have 8 minutes." Gwen was already moving toward the stairwell. "3rd floor, maintenance access tunnel above the conference room. The trigger mechanism is wireless, operating on a rotating frequency to prevent jamming. I need a spectrum analyzer and a laptop with at least 16 gigs of RAM." "I have both in my office," Park said, running to keep up. "Ma'am, do you know how to disarm it?" "No," Gwen admitted, taking the stairs 3 at a time despite her 42 years. "I can bypass the rotating frequency," Gwen said, taking the stairs 3 at a time. but I need a spectrum analyzer and a laptop with at least 16 gigs of RAM immediately. I have both in my office, Park said, running to keep up. They reached the maintenance tunnel. Gwen didn't hesitate, fingers flying across the laptop. Sterling, hold this antenna perpendicular to the devices. Park, on my mark, flip the override switch. We have one shot at this. They reached the maintenance tunnel, a cramped space filled with pipes and ventilation ducts. Through a grate, they could see into the empty conference room below. The chemical devices were visible, attached to the main ventilation shaft, 4 black cylinders with blinking red lights. 6 minutes, Morrison announced, having followed them up. Evacuation of the building is 60% complete. Gwen set up the laptop, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Code scrolled across the screen faster than anyone could read. Park, connect the spectrum analyzer. Sterling, I need you to manually hold this transmission antenna exactly perpendicular to those devices. Don't move it even a millimeter once I start broadcasting. Sterling took the antenna, his hands rock steady despite the pressure. Ma'am, Rodriguez said quietly, if this doesn't work, it'll work. Gwen's fingers never stopped moving. Park, when I say go, flip that switch. We'll have a 3-second window to match frequencies before the dead man's switch triggers. 3 seconds? Park's voice cracked slightly. That's impossible. No, Gwen said, her green eyes focused on the screen. It's just difficult. The laptop beeped, code compiled. The spectrum analyzer showed the rotating frequencies of the trigger mechanism, a dizzying dance of signals that changed every half second. 4 minutes, Morrison announced. Gwen took a breath, her hands poised over the keyboard. For just a moment, the commanding officer disappeared, and she was just a woman in a gray t-shirt, tired, older, carrying the weight of too many secrets and too many losses. Then her eyes hardened, and Ghost 6 was back. On my mark, she said. 3, 2, 1, mark. Park flipped the switch. Gwen's fingers danced across the keyboard, matching the frequency rotation in real time. The screen flashed red, missed. She adjusted, tried again. Red, again. The 3-second window was closing. On the 4th attempt, the screen flashed green. The red lights on the chemical devices blinked faster, then faster still, then went solid, then went dark. Devices neutralized, Gwen announced, slumping back against the tunnel wall. The tunnel erupted in cheers. Morrison grabbed his radio. All units, chemical threat neutralized. Resume normal operations. Bomb squad, remove those devices for analysis. Sterling carefully set down the antenna, his hands finally shaking. I've never seen anything like that. You just did something your father would have done, Gwen told him. Steady under pressure, no hesitation, he would be proud. Park was staring at the code on the laptop screen. This is military-grade encryption-breaking software. How does an IT contractor have access to this? I don't, Gwen said, closing the laptop. Ghost 6 does. Rodriguez's borrowed phone rang. He looked at the screen, confused. It says unknown number. Gwen took the phone, listened for a moment, then her face went very still. Understood. She hung up and looked at Morrison. General, we have a bigger problem. Harrison wasn't the only mole. There's someone else, someone higher up the chain. And they know I'm alive. Morrison's face darkened. How high? Joint Chiefs level, at minimum. Gwen stood, brushing dust from her gray t-shirt. The chemical attack was just a distraction. While everyone was focused on the conference room, someone accessed the Pentagon's black files. They downloaded everything on Ghost Unit 7. That's impossible, Morrison said. Those files are air-gapped, completely isolated. Not from the inside, Gwen replied. Not if you have the right clearance and the right window of opportunity. Like, say, when the entire building is being evacuated for a chemical weapons threat. Park connected the dots first. They used Harrison as bait. Let him get caught so everyone would think the threat was over. Exactly. Gwen handed the phone back to Rodriguez. Lance Corporal, I need you to do something for me. Don't react to what I'm about to say. Just nod. Rodriguez nodded. Your father's death wasn't an accident. The IED was placed specifically for our convoy. Someone knew our route. I've spent 10 years trying to find out who. She paused. I think I just did. Rodriguez's jaw clenched, but he maintained his composure. What do you need me to do? Nothing. Yet. But stay ready. Gwen turned to Morrison. General, I need to disappear again. If they know I'm alive, they'll come for me, and anyone connected to me. We can protect you, Morrison said. Official security, safe house, the works. Gwen shook her head, a sad smile touching her lips. General, I've been dead for 10 years. I've gotten good at it. Besides, they'll expect official protection. They won't expect what I'm planning, which is to stay right here, fixing computers and resetting passwords. She picked up her old Dell laptop. The best place to hide is where everyone's already seen you and dismissed you as harmless. Sterling stepped forward. Ma'am, after what I did earlier, I have no right to ask, but can I help? My father would want me to make this right. Gwen studied him for a long moment. Can you follow orders without question, even if they seem strange? Yes, ma'am. Can you pretend that nothing's changed? That I'm still just IT support? Yes, ma'am. Can you trust me, even when I can't tell you everything? Sterling straightened at us to attention. Colonel Matthews, my father trusted you with his life. I can do no less. I'm not a colonel anymore, Gwen reminded him. I'm nobody. Remember that. Park laughed, short and sharp. You're the most dangerous nobody I've ever met. Morrison's radio crackled again. General, we have a situation. Someone's trying to access the building. They're claiming diplomatic immunity, saying they need to speak with someone named Ghost 6. State Department's confirming their credentials now. Gwen's green eyes narrowed. Description? Morrison relayed the question, then listened to the response. Male, approximately 50 years old, Eastern European accent, scar across his left cheek. Dmitry Volkov, Gwen said quietly. Former Spetsnaz, now freelance intelligence broker. He's the one who supposedly killed me in Belgrade. Obviously he failed, Rodriguez said. No, Gwen corrected. He succeeded. Ghost 6 died that night. Gwen Matthews was born, and now he's here to finish the job. The maintenance tunnel felt suddenly smaller, the air thicker. Outside, they could hear the building returning to normal operations. People returning to their offices, the crisis apparently over. But in the tunnel, 5 people knew the truth. The crisis was just beginning. Morrison made a decision. We deny him entry. Diplomatic immunity or not, he's not getting into this building. He's already in, Gwen said with certainty. Volkov doesn't announce himself unless he's already 3 moves ahead. Check the security footage from the last hour. I guarantee you'll find at least 2 of his people already inside. As if on cue, the lights in the tunnel flickered and went out. Emergency lighting kicked in a second later, bathing everything in red. Gwen was already moving, pushing Park behind a large pipe. Everyone down, now! The grate leading to the conference room below exploded inward. 2 figures in tactical gear rolled through, weapons raised. But Gwen wasn't there anymore. She'd moved in the split second of darkness, positioning herself behind the intruders. The first one never saw her coming. She disabled him with precise strikes to pressure points, his body dropping silently. The second spun toward her, but Sterling acted on instinct, swinging the spectrum analyzer like a club. It connected with the intruder's helmet, staggering him long enough for Gwen to finish the job. Clear, she announced, checking the intruder's equipment. Russian tactical gear, Chinese weapons, Volkov's mixing suppliers. Smart. Morrison was already on his radio, calling for backup, but static was his only answer. Communications are jammed. He's isolated us, Gwen said. She looked at each of them in turn. Listen carefully. Volkov doesn't just want me dead. He wants something I know, something about Ghost Unit 7. If he can't get it from me, he'll try to get it from anyone who might have heard me talk. We haven't heard anything, Park protested. He doesn't know that. As far as he's concerned, you're all assets now. Leverage. Gwen checked the magazine in one of the captured weapons. Morrison, there's an old Cold War escape tunnel that runs from this maintenance area to the motor pool. It's not on any current blueprints. How do you know about it? Because I'm the one who made sure it wasn't on any current blueprints. She handed the second weapon to Sterling. Captain, you're about to get a crash course in escort and evasion. Ma'am, we should stand and fight, Sterling said. This is Marine headquarters. We don't run. Captain, Volkov Wetikachidi. Sipa Volkov once extracted a target from a KGB black site in Siberia with nothing but a paperclip and a cigarette lighter. He's not here for a fight. He's here for an acquisition. And if we stay, he'll use everyone in this building as leverage to get it. The lights flickered again. In the distance they could hear shouting, the sound of running feet. They're herding people, Rodriguez observed, driving them toward the main assembly area. Hostage situation, Gwen confirmed. He'll trade their lives for me, and when he has me, he'll kill them anyway to eliminate witnesses. Then we stop him, Morrison said firmly. We will, Gwen agreed, but not here, not now. We need space to maneuver, and we need to get these three, she indicated Park, Rodriguez, and Sterling, to safety. With respect, ma'am, Rodriguez said, my father didn't raise me to run from a fight. Gwen turned those green eyes on him, and for a moment, Rodriguez saw something that made him step back. It wasn't anger or fear. It was the weight of command, the burden of decisions that cost lives, the echo of every soldier she'd lost. Your father didn't raise you to die stupidly either, she said quietly. There's a difference between courage and suicide, Lance Corporal. Learn it, or you won't live long enough to matter. The harsh words stung, but Rodriguez nodded. The tunnel, Morrison said. Where's the entrance? Gwen was already moving, pulling aside a section of what looked like solid wall. It swung inward on hidden hinges, revealing a narrow passage that disappeared into darkness. Built in 1962, updated in '84, last used in 2001. After 911, Morrison asked. During, Gwen corrected. Some of us were already preparing for what came next. They entered the tunnel single file, Gwen leading with practiced certainty despite the darkness. The walls were concrete, cold, and damp. Their footsteps echoed oddly, the sound both muffled and amplified. Ma'am, Park whispered, how many people know you're alive? Including you 5, maybe a dozen. Most of them think I'm just a legend, a story to scare recruits. She paused at an intersection, choosing the left path without hesitation. Volkov knows because he's the one who supposedly killed me. He saw me go into the Danube with 3 bullets in my back. What he doesn't know is that I had a rebreather cached under the Charles Bridge, swam 2 miles underwater, came up in a storm drain. 3 bullets? Sterling asked, incredulous. 4, actually. I miscounted at the time. She kept moving, her voice conversational despite the circumstances. The scars are interesting. Want to see them? Maybe later, Sterling said weakly. They could hear sounds above them now, running, shouting, the occasional gunshot. The tunnel shook slightly, dust drifting from the ceiling. Breaching charges, Gwen identified. He's not being subtle. Rodriguez's borrowed phone vibrated. He looked at it, confused. I'm getting a text, but we're underground. That's impossible. Gwen took the phone, read the message, then showed it to Morrison. It was a single line. 10 minutes, go 6, main lobby, or everyone dies. DV. He's tracked us, Morrison said. No, he's guessing. This tunnel isn't on any blueprints, remember? He's fishing. Gwen handed the phone back. But he's also not bluffing about the timeline. Volkov always means what he says. They emerged from the tunnel into the motor pool, a vast underground garage filled with military vehicles. It was eerily quiet, abandoned in the evacuation. We need transportation, Morrison said, looking at the rows of Humvees and transport trucks. Too obvious. Gwen walked past the military vehicles to a corner where civilian contractor vehicles were parked. She stopped at a beat-up 2003 Honda Civic with rust spots and a broken taillight. This one. You're joking, Sterling said. Gwen was already underneath the car, doing something to the undercarriage. Moments later, the engine started without keys. Get in. They piled into the small car, Morrison in front, the other 3 crammed in the back. Gwen drove with the same precision she did everything else, navigating the garage's twists and turns from memory. Where are we going? Morrison asked. First, we get these 3 somewhere safe. Then I go back for Volkov. Alone? Park protested. That's insane. That's the job, Gwen corrected. She pulled out onto a service road, keeping the speed steady, unremarkable. Morrison, there's a safe house in Arlington, unofficial. Address is 1422 Maple Street, apartment 3B. Take them there. What about you? I have 9 minutes to prepare for a reunion with an old friend. She pulled into a strip mall parking lot, stopping near a FedEx store. Everyone out. Ma'am, Rodriguez said, there has to be another way. Gwen turned in her seat, looking at each of them. Her green eyes were calm, almost peaceful. There is, but it involves a lot more people dying. I've carried enough ghosts for one lifetime. Morrison understood first. You're not planning to survive this. I haven't planned to survive anything since Belgrade. Makes life simpler. She reached into her pocket, pulled out a flash drive. Morrison, this contains everything. Ghost Unit 7's real history. The operations that never happened, the soldiers who never existed, the truth about who betrayed us. She pressed it into his hand. If I don't make it back, make sure it gets to the right people. Define right people, Morrison said. The ones who still believe in something bigger than their bank accounts. Gwen looked at Sterling. Your father was one of them. That's why he had to die. Sterling's face went white. My father was murdered? Everyone in Ghost Unit 7 was murdered, Captain. One way or another. Some of us just took longer to stop breathing. She checked her watch. 6 minutes. Go. They got out of the car reluctantly. Morrison leaned back through the window. Colonel Matthews? Gwen, she corrected. Colonel Matthews died in Belgrade. Gwen Matthews is about to die at Quantico. But maybe, if we're very lucky, someone else will survive. Someone Volkov isn't expecting. Who? She smiled then, and for just a moment, her whole face transformed. The weight lifted, the years fell away, and she was young again, beautiful and dangerous and absolutely certain. Someone who's been dead so long, she's forgotten what it feels like to be alive. She drove away, leaving them standing in the parking lot. Rodriguez watched the taillights disappear and said what they were all thinking. We're never going to see her again, are we? Morrison gripped the flash drive tightly. Maybe not Gwen Matthews, but Ghost 6? Ghost 6 is harder to kill than that. How can you be sure? Park asked. Because Dmitry Volkov already killed her once. And here we are, 10 years later, watching her drive back to face him again. Morrison started walking toward the FedEx store. Come on, we have our orders. Sterling hesitated. We're just going to let her go, alone? Captain, Morrison said quietly, do you know what the 6 in Ghost 6 means? She was the 6th member of the unit? No. It means she was the 6th person to hold that designation. The previous 5 all died in operations. The average life expectancy of a Ghost unit commander was 18 months. She lasted 7 years. Morrison kept walking. If anyone can survive Dmitry Volkov twice, it's her. Behind them, in the distance, they could see smoke rising from Quantico. The base was in lockdown, sirens wailing. Somewhere in that chaos, Gwen Matthews was driving back into a trap, armed with nothing but a stolen Honda and the skills that had kept her alive when everyone wanted her dead. Rodriguez looked at his phone. 4 minutes remained on Volkov's deadline. The Honda's engine coughed as Gwen pushed it harder than its worn cylinders wanted to go. 3 minutes until Volkov's deadline. The main gate of Quantico loomed ahead. Abandoned guardbouts and flashing emergency lights, painting everything in alternating red and blue. She didn't slow down. The barrier arm shattered against the Honda's hood as she crashed through. Security cameras tracked her movement, but no one tried to stop her. They were all dealing with Volkov's men inside. Perfect. She parked the Honda in the loading dock behind the main building, killing the engine. 2 minutes, 40 seconds. Through the service entrance, up the maintenance stairs. Her footsteps echoed in the empty stairwell, each one marking time she didn't have. The third-floor hallway stretched before her, emergency lighting casting long shadows. She could hear voices from the main lobby below, frightened civilians, barked orders, and accented English. Volkov had turned the headquarters into his personal theater, and everyone inside was now an unwilling actor in his play. Gwen stopped at a maintenance closet, pulling out her laptop. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, accessing systems she'd built backdoors into months ago. The building's security feeds appeared on her screen in a grid. Main lobby, 47 hostages seated on the floor, 12 armed men in tactical gear surrounding them. Conference room B, another 20 hostages. Loading dock, 4 guards. And there, standing in the center of the main lobby like he owned it, was Dmitry Volkov. He hadn't changed much in 10 years. 6 feet tall, lean like a swimmer, gray hair cut military short. The scar across his left cheek had faded but still pulled his mouth into a permanent half-smile. He wore an expensive suit, charcoal gray, as if this was a business meeting rather than a hostage situation. 1 minute, 30 seconds. Gwen closed the laptop and moved to the emergency fire system panel. She pulled a small device from her pocket, something she'd built years ago, about the size of a deck of cards. She plugged it into the panel's diagnostic port. The screen flickered, then displayed a new menu that definitely wasn't part of the original design. She selected Selective Deployment and began marking zones on the building schematic. Not the lobby, that would panic the hostages, but the surrounding hallways, the alternate routes Volkov's men would use. Create chaos, but controlled chaos. 45 seconds. Her phone buzzed. Rodriguez had forwarded another message. I can see you on the cameras, Ghost 6. Stop playing with the fire system and come down. DV. So, he had access to the security feeds too. Of course he did. Gwen typed a response. Remember Belgrade? You shot me 3 times and I still got away. Want to try for 4? She hit send and started walking toward the main staircase. No point in hiding now. The main lobby was a study in controlled terror when she entered. Hostages pressed together in tight groups. Volkov's men positioned at tactical points. She recognized some faces. Administrative staff, junior officers, civilian contractors like herself, or like what she pretended to be. Ah, there she is. Volkov's voice carried across the marble space, cultured and cold. The ghost who refuses to stay dead. Gwen walked forward slowly, hands visible but relaxed at her sides. Hello, Dmitri. You're looking well for someone who's supposed to be in a Siberian prison. Money opens many doors, my dear, even Russian ones. He gestured to his men, who raised their weapons slightly. No sudden movements, please. My men are nervous. Americans make them nervous. All that unpredictability. Since when do you work with a full team? Gwen stopped 20 feet from him, just outside the immediate threat range. The Dmitry Volkov I knew worked alone. The Dmitry Volkov you knew was younger, more idealistic. I've learned the value of delegation. He pulled out a tablet, swiped through some screens. Shall we discuss why I'm really here? The Ghost Unit files? You want the names of the assets we protected, the operations we ran, 20 years of American intelligence wrapped up in a neat little package. Partially correct. Volkov smiled, that scar pulling his face into something predatory. I want something specific. Operation Phantom Bridge, August 15th, 2004, Kabul. Gwen's expression didn't change, but inside, pieces clicked together. That operation never happened. Please, we're past such games. He turned the tablet toward her. On the screen was a photograph, grainy, taken from distance. It showed American soldiers escorting a group of civilians to a helicopter. One soldier's face was circled. Even at that distance, even with tactical gear obscuring most features, the height and build were unmistakably Gwen's. You extracted someone that night, Volkov continued. Someone important enough that the entire operation was erased from official records. I want to know who. Why? Because someone is paying $50 million for that information. He set the tablet on a nearby desk. Now, we can do this the difficult way, where I start shooting hostages until you tell me, or we can do this the professional way, where you give me what I want and everyone walks away. Gwen looked at the hostages. A young woman in a Navy uniform was crying silently. An older man in maintenance coveralls was praying under his breath. They were all looking at her, hope and fear warring in their eyes. The professional way, she said, but I have conditions. You're hardly in a position to negotiate. I'm the only person alive who knows what you want to know. That puts me in exactly the position to negotiate. She took a step forward. Release half the hostages now as a good faith gesture. I'll tell you what you want to know. Then you release the rest and leave. Volkov considered this. Quarter of the hostages. Half, or I tell you nothing, and you can explain to your client why $50 million walked away. He gestured to his men. You, and you. Take groups 1 and 2 to the parking lot. Release them. About 20 people were hauled to their feet and escorted out. The young Navy woman tried to catch Gwen's eye as she passed, mouthing, "Thank you." Now, Volkov said, "Phantom Bridge." The extraction target was a nuclear physicist, Gwen said, her voice carrying clearly. Dr. Yusuf Amin, Pakistani national who had been selling nuclear secrets to the highest bidder. We grabbed him before the Taliban could. That's not worth $50 million. It is if you know what he was really selling. Gwen moved closer, just 15 feet away now. He wasn't just selling nuclear secrets. He was selling the location of 3 Soviet-era suitcase nukes that had been missing since 1991. Volkov's eyes sharpened. The Kremlin's lost toys. They'd been looking for those for 30 years. And Amin knew where they were. We extracted him, got the information, recovered 2 of the devices. The third, she shrugged, still out there. Where is Amin now? Dead. Car accident in 2006. Very tragic. Convenient. Volkov studied her face. You're lying about something. Part of that story is true, but not all of it. Does it matter? You have what you need to collect your 50 million. Perhaps. He pulled out a phone, dialed a number. Yes, it's me. I have the information. Dr. Yusuf Amin, Pakistani nuclear physicist, extracted August 15th, 2004. He had intelligence on the missing suitcase nukes. He listened for a moment, then his face changed. I see. Yes, I understand. He ended the call and looked at Gwen with something that might have been admiration. My client says Dr. Amin was indeed extracted that night, but he wasn't the primary target. He was the cover story. Gwen said nothing. The real target was someone else. Someone whose extraction was so sensitive that they created an entire false operation to hide it. Volkov raised his pistol, aimed it at a hostage, an older woman in a civilian outfit. Last chance, who was the real target? The fire suppression system activated. Not in the lobby, but in every hallway surrounding it. White foam sprayed from nozzles, creating an instant blizzard of chemical snow. Alarms shrieked. Emergency lights switched to full strobe mode. Volkov's men spun toward the exits, trying to see through the foam. That's when Gwen moved. She crossed the 15 feet in under 2 seconds. Her left hand knocked Volkov's pistol aside as it fired, the bullet sparking off marble. Her right elbow caught him in the solar plexus. He doubled over, and she brought her knee up into his feet. The scar on his cheek split open, blood spraying. But Volkov hadn't survived this long by being slow. He rolled with the knee strike, came up with a knife in his hand. The blade whispered through the air, where Gwen's throat had been a millisecond before. They circled each other, while chaos erupted around them. Volkov's men couldn't shoot without risking their boss. The hostages were screaming, scattering, using the confusion to run for exits. Still fast, Volkov said, blood running down his face. But you're older, slower. You're bleeding, Gwen observed, and your team is about to have company. Through the foam-filled hallways came the sound of boots, many boots, marine boots. Morrison hadn't gone to the safe house. He'd gathered reinforcements. Volkov lunged with the knife. Gwen deflected with her forearm, feeling the blade slice through her shirt and skin. She grabbed his wrist, pivoted, and threw him over her hip. He hit the marble hard but rolled to his feet, the knife still in his hand. Ghost 6! Morrison's voice boomed from the east entrance. Marines poured in, weapons raised. Volkov's men opened fire. The lobby became a war zone, automatic weapons chattering, marble chips flying, people screaming. Gwen tackled a group of hostages, pushing them behind the reception desk as bullets whined overhead. Stay down, she shouted over the noise. Volkov appeared above her, knife descending. She caught his wrist with both hands, the blade stopping inches from her face. They struggled, strength against strength. The knife crept closer. You want to know the truth about Phantom Bridge? Gwen gasped, muscles straining. The real target wasn't a person. It was information, the identity of a mole in the Pentagon. Someone who'd been selling operational intelligence for 20 years. Who? Volkov pressed harder, the knife point touching her cheek. Someone who's still there. Someone who paid you to come here. She shifted her grip suddenly, using his own force against him. The knife plunged into the wooden reception desk beside her head. You were never here for the Ghost Unit files, Dmitri. You were here to clean up loose ends. Understanding dawned in Volkov's eyes. I've been played. A rifle butt caught him in the temple. He collapsed sideways. Sterling stood over him, the captured weapon from the tunnel in his hands. Stay down, or the next one won't be the stock. The firefight was ending. Volkov's men, outnumbered and outflanked, were surrendering or down. Marines secured the lobby with practiced efficiency. Morrison appeared, helping Gwen to her feet. I told you to get them to safety, she said. You gave me a flash drive with evidence of treason and murder. I made an executive decision. He looked at Volkov, who was conscious but groggy. Besides, I wanted to meet the man who supposedly killed you. Lieutenant Park and Rodriguez emerged from behind a pillar where they had been returning fire. Park had acquired a rifle somewhere. Rodriguez was helping evacuate wounded hostages. Ma'am, Park said, your arm. Gwen looked down. Blood was running from the knife wound, dripping onto the white marble. Had worse. In Belgrade? Sterling asked. And Fallujah, and Kandahar, and about 6 other places that don't officially exist. She walked over to Volkov, knelt beside him. Who hired you? He laughed, blood bubbling from his split lip. You think I know? Everything was done through intermediaries. Encrypted communications, cryptocurrency payments, very professional. But you have suspicions. I have many suspicions. But suspicion and proof are different things. He looked up at her. We're not so different, you and I. Both ghosts, both serving masters we never see. The difference is, I know who my masters are. Do you? Volkov's smile was sad. 10 years ago in Belgrade, who told you about the meeting? Who gave you the intelligence that walked you into my ambush? Gwen went very still. That's right, Volkov continued. We were both played that night. You were supposed to die, and I was supposed to be the hero who stopped the infamous Ghost 6. Instead, you survived, I became a liability, and we've both been running ever since. Morrison's radio crackled. General, we have another situation. Someone's trying to access the building. They say they're from the Pentagon. Joint Chiefs level. Gwen stood slowly. Here we go. 5 minutes later, the lobby had been transformed into something resembling order. Wounded were being treated, Volkov's surviving men were in custody, and someone had shut off the fire suppression foam. Into this controlled chaos walked General Patricia Hayes, Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. She was 63 years old, silver hair pulled back in a severe bun, uniform immaculate despite the chaos around her. 4 aides flanked her, all carrying tablets and looking officious. General Morrison, she said, voice cutting through the noise, I'll need a full report on this incident. Ma'am, Morrison saluted. We had a breach by foreign operatives. They've been neutralized. Hayes's eyes found Gwen, still in her blood-stained gray t-shirt. And who is this? IT support, ma'am, Morrison said carefully. She helped during the incident. IT support. Hayes walked closer, studying Gwen's face. Those green eyes, those distinctive features. I see. And I suppose IT support is responsible for neutralizing 12 armed operatives? I had help, Gwen said quietly. Yes, I imagine you did. Hayes turned to her aides. Clear the room. Everyone out except General Morrison and our IT support. It took 5 minutes to empty the lobby. Sterling protested, wanting to stay, but Gwen shook her head. Park and Rodriguez went reluctantly. Even the medical staff was escorted out, leaving just the 3 of them in the vast, bullet-scarred space. Hayes waited until the last door closed, then said, Hello, Colonel Matthews. Gwen didn't react. I don't know who you are talking about. Please, I've been tracking you for 3 years. Ever since certain irregularities appeared in Pentagon personnel files. Someone was accessing classified databases with credentials that didn't exist, looking for something, or someone. Prove it. Hayes pulled out a tablet, swiped through several screens, then turned it toward them. It showed security footage from various locations over the past 3 years. A woman in an IT uniform at the Pentagon. The same woman at Fort Bragg. At Norfolk. Always in the background, always unremarkable, but always there when something significant happened. You've been hunting the mole, Hayes said. The one who betrayed Ghost Unit 7. The one who got your people killed. If I were this Colonel Matthews, Gwen said carefully, I'd be a way, and if I were hunting someone, what would it matter to you? Because I've been hunting the same person, Hayes set the tablet down. 3 years ago, I was appointed to investigate irregularities in black budget operations, money disappearing, operations compromised, assets lost. Every thread led back to Ghost Unit 7 and their mysterious commander who died in Belgrade. She did die in Belgrade. Her body was never recovered. The Danube is deep. Lots of bodies never get recovered. Hayes smiled thinly. True, but then IT contractors started showing up at sensitive locations. ID contractors who could field strip weapons blindfolded. IT contractors who spoke 7 languages and had reaction times of combat veterans. Morrison looked between them. General Hayes, with respect, what are you really saying? I'm saying that Colonel Matthews, our IT support, has been running her own investigation for 10 years, and she's been getting close. Close enough that someone panicked and hired Dmitry Volkov to clean up loose ends. You knew about Volkov? Gwen's voice sharpened. We've been monitoring his communications for 6 months. When he entered the country yesterday, we let him. We wanted to see who he was really working for. Hayes paused. We didn't anticipate him taking hostages. That was regrettable. Regrettable? People could have died. People did die, 10 years ago. Your entire unit systematically hunted down and eliminated, all except you. Hayes pulled out another device, this one looking like a sophisticated phone. Would you like to know who gave the order? Gwen's whole body tensed. You know? I've known for 6 months, but knowing and proving are different things. I need evidence that will stand up in court, or... She looked meaningfully at Gwen. I need the person responsible to confess. Who is it? Hayes held up a hand. First, I need something from you, official confirmation of your identity. Then we can discuss next steps. Gwen was silent for a long moment. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a set of dog tags. Not the ones she'd shown before, different ones, older, worn smooth with age. She handed them to Hayes. The general read them, then nodded. Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Chen Matthews, service number 458669012. Ghost Unit 7, commanding. Sarah Chen? Morrison asked, surprised. Not Gwen? Gwen was my grandmother's name. Gwen, Sarah said quietly. Russian on my mother's side, Chinese American on my father's. Sarah Chen Matthews was too distinctive, too easy to track. Gwen Matthews is forgettable. Hayes handed back the dog tags. Colonel Matthews, by the authority vested in me by the Joint Chiefs, I'm officially reactivating your commission. I don't want it. I'm not giving you a choice. Hayes' voice hardened. The person who betrayed your unit is still operational, still selling secrets, still getting people killed. Don't you want to stop them? Who is it? Hayes looked at Morrison, then back at Sarah. General Thomas Blackwood, current head of Defense Intelligence Agency. Morrison's intake of breath was audible. Blackwood? But he's a hero. 3 tours in Afghanistan, wounded in action, testified before Congress about veteran affairs. He's also been selling operational intelligence to the highest bidder for 22 years, Hayes said. Every ghost unit operation, every safe house, every asset, he sold them all. Your unit was just the most profitable. Do you know how much the Russians paid for Ghost Unit 7's elimination? How much? Sarah's voice was deadly quiet. $50 million. The same amount Volkov was being paid to find out about Phantom Bridge. Hayes smiled grimly. Blackwood has been using the same playbook for 2 decades. Create a crisis, sell the solution, eliminate witnesses. But why hire Volkov now? Morrison asked. What changed? Colonel Matthews got too close, Hayes said, looking at Sarah. 3 weeks ago, you accessed a database at Norfolk. Blackwood's personal files. You tripped an alert he'd set up. He knew someone was onto him. Sarah nodded slowly. The financial records. Offshore accounts that didn't match his salary. Exactly. So, he activated Volkov, gave him just enough information to be dangerous, and pointed him at you. Hayes picked up Volkov's tablet from the desk. But Volkov's smarter than Blackwood gave him credit for. He's been recording everything, building his own insurance policy. On the tablet screen were dozens of files, audio recordings, encrypted messages, financial transactions, a complete record of Blackwood's treasonous activities. This is enough to bury him, Morrison said. It's enough to execute him, Hayes corrected. Treason during wartime carries the death penalty. Where is he now? Sarah asked. Pentagon. In his office, probably watching news coverage of this incident and wondering if his plan worked. Hayes checked her watch. In about 10 minutes, he's going to receive a message that Volkov succeeded, that you're dead, and that all loose ends are tied up. From who? From me. Hayes smiled. I've been posing as his intermediary for 6 months, routing his communications, building a case. He has no idea he's been corresponding with the vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Sarah stared at her. You've been playing him? Just like he played your unit. Seemed appropriate. Hayes pulled out her phone, typed a quick message. There. Volkov reports mission success. Ghost 6 eliminated, all witnesses silenced, evidence destroyed. He'll relax now, think he's safe. And then? Then you're going to walk into his office and show him exactly how wrong he is. Sarah shook her head. I can't. Too many people have seen me here. The hostages, the Marines, the security footage. The security footage has already been edited, Hayes said. The official record shows an unnamed civilian contractor helping during the crisis, face obscured by system malfunctions. The hostages were traumatized, their memories unreliable. And the Marines? She looked at Morrison. The Marines saw nothing unusual, Morrison said firmly. Just Et support doing her job. Hayes nodded. In 1 hour, General Blackwood will be alone in his office. Security will be conveniently called away, cameras will malfunction, and a ghost will walk through his door. You want me to kill him, Sarah said. I want you to get justice for your unit. How you define that is up to you. Hayes turned to leave, then paused. Your daughter is doing well, by the way. Sarah went rigid. What? Captain Jessica Matthews, Army Intelligence. Currently stationed in South Korea. Brilliant officer. Reminds me of her mother. Hayes smiled. Blackwood doesn't know she exists. I made sure of that. But if he ever found out... He won't, Sarah said, her voice ice cold. He won't find out anything ever again. Hayes left, her aides falling in behind her like ducklings. Morrison and Sarah stood in the destroyed lobby, surrounded by bullet holes and bloodstains. Your daughter? Morrison asked gently. Born in 2003. Her father died in Iraq before she was born. I gave her up for adoption, closed adoption, no trail back to me. Sarah's green eyes were distant. But I kept watch, made sure she was safe, had what she needed. When she joined up, I nearly had a heart attack. Does she know? No, and she never will. Sarah Chen Matthews is dead, remember? Morrison studied her face. What are you going to do about Blackwood? Sarah looked at the blood on her shirt. Her blood. Volkov's blood. The blood of 10 years of running and hiding and hunting. What would you do, General, if someone killed your entire family, then lived off the profit? I'd want justice. Justice. Sarah tested the word like it was foreign. I've been dead for 10 years, Morrison. The dead don't get justice. They get revenge. She walked toward the exit, her footsteps echoing in the empty space. Morrison called after her, Colonel Matthews! She stopped, but didn't turn around. Your unit would be proud, he said. My unit is dead. She started walking again. But maybe, after today, they can rest. Rodriguez checked his watch. 53 minutes since Hayes had left, since Sarah had disappeared to prepare for her confrontation with Blackwood. He, Park, and Sterling sat in Morrison's office, ostensibly filling out incident reports, but really just waiting. She should take backup, Sterling said for the 5th time. She's been doing this alone for 10 years, Park reminded him. I don't think she needs our help. Rodriguez's phone, a new one, his old one still in evidence, buzzed with a news alert. Pentagon lockdown, suspicious individual reported in secure area. That's her. Morrison entered, closing the door behind him. It's done. Done? Sterling asked. What do you mean done? General Blackwood suffered a massive heart attack in his office 20 minutes ago. He was alone, door locked from the inside. By the time security broke in, he was gone. Heart attack, Park said slowly. Natural causes. That's what the medical examiner will say. Morrison sat heavily. They found him at his desk, his computer open to what appeared to be a suicide note confessing to 20 years of treason. Names, dates, bank accounts, everything. But it wasn't suicide, Rodriguez said. It was her. The security footage shows no one entering or leaving his office for 2 hours, Morrison said. The hallway cameras malfunctioned, but the ones in the stairwells and elevators were working. Empty. Ghost 6, Sterling murmured. She really is a ghost. Morrison pulled out the flash drive Sarah had given him earlier. This contains the real story. Everything Hayes couldn't prove in court. Everything that would have been classified beyond any trial. Blackwood didn't just betray Ghost Unit. He sold out dozens of operations, hundreds of assets. The death toll is in the thousands. So she killed him, Park said. The medical examiner will find he died of a heart attack, Morrison repeated carefully. Natural causes brought on by stress. The confession was his attempt to clear his conscience before the end. They sat in silence for a moment, processing this. Rodriguez's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He answered cautiously. Hello? Lance Corporal. Sarah's voice, tired but clear. Is Morrison there? Rodriguez put it on speaker. Ma'am, we're all here. Good. Morrison, the flash drive I gave you has a secondary partition. Password is Belgrade Ghost 7. It contains financial information, accounts Blackwood couldn't close, assets he'd hidden, about $300 million total. Morrison was already at his computer, plugging in the drive. What do you want me to do with it? Ghost Unit 7 had 43 members over its 7 years. 38 are confirmed dead. Their families never got death benefits because officially they died in training accidents or random street crimes. That money should go to them. And the other 5? Missing, presumed dead. But presumed isn't confirmed. There was a pause. Keep some funds available, just in case. Where are you? Sterling asked. Saying goodbye. The line went dead. Rodriguez looked at the others. Arlington National Cemetery. She's visiting their graves. They found her 3 hours later, as the sun was setting over the rows of white headstones. She was sitting on the grass in front of a simple marker. William Sterling, Staff Sergeant, United States Marine Corps. She'd changed clothes, dark jeans, a black sweater, her hair down for once. Without the gray t-shirt and military pants, she looked younger, softer, almost normal. Sterling approached slowly. Ma'am? Not ma'am anymore, Sarah said without looking up. Sarah Chen Matthews's commission was reactivated for exactly 1 hour and 14 minutes. Long enough to enter the Pentagon, access Blackwood's office, and discover his body. Then she resigned. Again. Sterling sat down beside her. My father's grave. He was a good man, one of the best. She traced the letters on the headstone. Did you know he wrote poetry? What? Terrible poetry. Truly awful. Rhymed love with dove once. We gave him so much grief about it. She smiled at the memory. But he kept writing it, sending it home to your mother, said someday she'd appreciate it. She kept every letter, Sterling said. Has them in a box in her closet. Rodriguez and Park had held back, but now they approached too, Morrison with them. They formed a loose semicircle around the grave. 38 stones, Sarah said, gesturing to the surrounding area, scattered throughout the cemetery because they couldn't be buried together. Can't have a section for a unit that didn't exist. Hayes wants to change that, Morrison said. A memorial, at least. Something to acknowledge their service. No, Sarah stood, brushing grass from her jeans. They died in the shadows. Let them rest in the shadows. That's what they signed up for. She started walking toward the cemetery entrance. The others followed. What will you do now? Park asked. Degi, coasked. Disappear. For real this time. Gwen Matthews has to vanish. Too many people saw her today. Sarah Chen Matthews is officially dead. Again. Time for someone new. You can't just keep running, Rodriguez protested. Sarah stopped at a black motorcycle parked near the entrance. Not military, not conspicuous. Just transportation. I'm not running. I'm done running. Blackwood's dead. The mole is gone. The unit is avenged. For the first time in 10 years, I'm not running from or toward anything. Your daughter, Morrison said. Jessica, you could what? Walk into her life and say, hi, I'm your dead mother who's been living under false identities while hunting traitors? Sarah shook her head. She has a good life, a career, a future. I'm not going to destroy that with my past. She swung her leg over the motorcycle, started the engine. It purred quietly, well-maintained. Will we see you again? Sterling asked. Sarah pulled on a helmet, the visor hiding her green eyes. Look for me in the shadows, Captain. That's where ghosts live. She revved the engine once, then pulled away. They watched until the motorcycle disappeared into DC traffic, just another commuter heading home. Morrison's phone rang. He answered, listened. Then his face went pale. Are you sure? When? Another pause. I understand. We'll be right there. What is it? Park asked. Volkov. He's escaped. What? How? During transfer to federal custody, professional extraction, 3 agents dead, 2 critically wounded. Morrison was already heading for his car. He left a message, for Ghost 6. They drove in tense silence back to Quantico. The transfer site was a massacre, professional, efficient, brutal. Volkov's people had hit the convoy at exactly the right moment, in exactly the right place. The message was spray-painted on the side of the overturned transport van. Belgrade isn't finished. DV. Rodriguez stared at it. He's going after her. She can handle herself, Park said, but uncertainty colored her voice. Sterling was examining the scene with a tactical eye. This wasn't a rescue. This was a recruitment. Look at the precision. Someone hired Volkov's team to get him out. Who? Morrison demanded. Someone who knew Blackwood was dead and needed a new asset. Sterling pointed to tire tracks leading away. Military-grade vehicles. This was government-sanctioned. Morrison's phone rang again. Hayes. General, I suppose you're calling about Volkov. Among other things, is our IT contractor secure? She left. We don't know where. Find her, now. Why? What's happening? Blackwood wasn't working alone. He had a partner, someone higher up the chain, someone who just activated every remaining asset to find and eliminate Ghost 6. Morrison felt his blood chill. Who? We don't know yet, but whoever it is has access to classified databases, satellite surveillance, and apparently, mercenary extraction teams. Hayes paused. General, they have classified her as a terrorist threat. Every law enforcement agency in the country just received her photo and a kill-on-site order. That's insane. She just saved dozens of lives. The official story is that she orchestrated the hostage situation to assassinate General Blackwood. Volkov was her accomplice. They're painting her as a rogue operative who's been killing American personnel for 10 years. Morrison looked at the others, their faces reflecting his horror. We have to warn her. How? Hayes asked. We don't know where she is, what name she's using, or where she's going. Rodriguez suddenly pulled out his phone, started typing furiously. What are you doing? Park asked. My dad's unit had protocols, ways to reach each other if everything went wrong. He showed them the screen, an old bulletin board system, the kind that hadn't been popular since the 90s. She mentioned my father talked about me constantly. She knew details. She'd know this. He typed a message. Ghost 6, Belgrade isn't finished. They're coming. Jimmy's son. They waited. 30 seconds. A minute. Then a response. Jimmy's favorite song? Rodriguez typed without hesitation. Fortunate Son. Played it before every mission. Another pause. Then, Marina, Pier 47, 2 hours. Come alone. No, Morrison said immediately. It could be a trap. It's not, Rodriguez said. That's her. She's trusting me because of my father. Then we all go, Sterling said. Rodriguez shook his head. She said alone. She means it. If she sees anyone else, she'll vanish. Morrison grabbed his shoulder. Lance Corporal, you're asking us to let you walk into what could be an ambush. Sir, with respect, she saved all our lives today. She knew my father, made him a promise. She's been protecting me without my knowledge for years. Rodriguez stood straighter. I'm going. The marina was dark. Gwen stood at the end of Pier 47, looking like a shadow in her navy peacoat. She didn't turn when Rodriguez approached. I said come alone, Lance Corporal. I know, Rodriguez said, stopping 10 feet away. And I ignored that order. Gwen turned, eyes flashing. This isn't a game. CIA wet teams are hunting me. I won't let you... You don't have a choice. Sterling's voice came from the shadows behind Rodriguez. Park and Morrison stepped out beside him. Gwen stared at them. You're all insane. They've branded me a terrorist. We know, Morrison said, holding up a secure tablet. And we know Blackwood had a partner. We're not letting you fight this war alone. Gwen looked at the faces of the people she'd saved. Her defenses finally cracked, just a fraction. She nodded toward a small Zodiac boat. Get in, she said, her voice rough. If we stay here any longer, we're all dead. I have a safe house. Let's go. Home sweet home, she said, pulling off the watch cap. Her light brown hair fell loose, and for a moment she looked vulnerable, human. Park and Morrison were already there, having taken a different route. Park was at a computer terminal, fingers flying. I've got something. Blackwood's partner, they made a mistake. Used an old authorization code to activate the kill order, one that traces back to a specific department. Which one? Sarah asked, moving to look at the screen. Strategic Intelligence. Limited access. Only 4 people have used that code in the last 5 years. Park pulled up photos. 3 are accounted for. The 4th, Sarah's intake of breath was audible. No. On the screen was a photo of Admiral Marcus Webb, Chief of Naval Intelligence. 68 years old, distinguished career, Medal of Honor recipient. You know him, Morrison observed. He recruited me, 22 years ago, straight out of language school. Sarah's voice was hollow. He created Ghost Unit 7. I thought he was a father to us. Rodriguez studied the photo. Makes sense. He'd know everything, every operation, every safe house. Every weakness, Sarah added. She turned away from the screen. He gave the eulogy at my funeral, cried actual tears. Maybe he didn't know, Sterling suggested. Maybe Blackwood fooled him too. Sarah laughed bitterly. Webb doesn't get fooled. He does the fooling. She pulled out one of the phones from her pocket, started typing. But he made one mistake. He taught me everything he knows. What are you doing? Sending a message to the other survivors. They need to know who we're really up against. She finished typing, hit send. And then we're going to do what ghosts do best. Disappear? Park asked. No. Sarah's green eyes were hard as emeralds. Haunt. The screen behind Park flickered, then displayed an incoming message. Sarah read it, her face going pale. What is it? Morrison asked. She turned the screen toward them. It was a photo of a young woman in Army uniform, taken that day. Captain Jessica Matthews, Sarah's daughter. The message below was simple. 48 hours. Come alone or she dies. M.W. Rodriguez felt the temperature in the room drop 10 degrees. Sarah stood perfectly still, but something had changed. The tired-eyed contractor was gone. The wounded soldier was gone. What stood there now was something else entirely. Ghost 6, not hiding anymore, not running, hunting. He just made his last mistake, she said quietly. Sarah, Morrison started. Marie Duval is burned. Gwen Matthews is dead. Sarah Chen Matthews died in Belgrade. She pulled out a knife, began cutting her hair short with practiced strokes. Time to be someone new, someone Admiral Webb won't see coming. Who? Sterling asked. Sarah smiled, and it was terrible. Someone who doesn't care about collateral damage. Someone who's been dead so long she's forgotten what it means to be human. She looked at each of them in turn. You wanted to help? Fine, but we do this my way. No rules, no mercy, no hesitation. We're with you, Rodriguez said immediately. All the way, Park added. Sterling and Morrison nodded. Sarah studied them for a long moment, then pulled out the encrypted phone again. She dialed a number from memory. It's me, she said when someone answered. Code Black. Authorization Zulu 9. A pause. Yes, all of them. Every asset, every favor, every ghost who owes us blood. Another pause. 48 hours. She hung up and looked at her improvised team. Admiral Webb thinks he's hunting one ghost. He's about to learn what happens when you wake the entire cemetery. Outside, a storm was building over the Potomac, lightning flickering in the distance. Thunder rolled across the water like artillery fire. Rodriguez thought it sounded like war. It was. The next 36 hours passed in a blur of preparation. The fishing platform became a command center, with Park coordinating intelligence, Morrison working his military contacts, and Sterling planning tactical operations. Rodriguez found himself running supplies, maintaining weapons, and watching Sarah transform. She had dyed her hair black, added subtle prosthetics to change her cheekbones, and adopted a slight Eastern European accent. Contact lenses turned her green eyes brown. In 12 hours, she'd become someone entirely different. Natasha Petrova, she said, showing them a perfect Russian passport. Former FSB, now freelance security consultant. Webb has contacts in Russian intelligence. They'll verify her as real. How? Park asked. Because she is real, or was. Died in Chechnya 3 years ago, body never recovered. Sarah, Natasha now, smiled grimly. I've been maintaining her legend ever since, just in case. Morrison's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, then hung up, looking troubled. Webb's moved your daughter to a black site. Unofficial, off the books. Where? Eastern Shore, old CIA farm that was supposedly decommissioned in 2010. Huntington facility, Sarah said immediately. I know it. Trained there in '99. It's a trap, Sterling said. He knows you'll come. Of course it's a trap, but he's expecting Sarah Chen Matthews, lone wolf, emotional, desperate to save her daughter. She pulled up schematics on the computer. He's not expecting what's actually coming. Which is? Before she could answer, the perimeter alarm chimed. Someone was approaching the platform. Sarah checked the monitors, then relaxed slightly. They're here. 3 Zodiacs emerged from the darkness, each carrying a single passenger. As they climbed onto the platform, Rodriguez got his first look at the other Ghost Unit survivors. Marcus Tombstone Wright, 48, African-American, built like a linebacker despite his age. Maria Reaper Santos, 39, Puerto Rican, moved like a dancer carrying death. David Bones Kim, 51, Korean-American, thin and quiet with the 1,000-yard stare of a sniper. They greeted Sarah with nods, no words needed. These were people who'd communicated in silence for years. Webb? Tombstone asked. Webb, Sarah confirmed. Always suspected, Reaper said. Too many operations went sideways after he was briefed. The daughter? Bones asked. Leverage. He thinks I'll come alone. You are going alone, Tombstone said. We'll just happen to be in the area. Sarah pulled up the facility schematics. Standard entry points here, here, and here. He'll have them covered. What about non-standard? Reaper studied the plans. Sewage treatment, maybe? Sealed in 2012 after someone tried that. Sarah pointed to another section. But the old missile silo access tunnel was never officially logged. Runs 2 miles underground, comes up in the motor pool. Condition? Unknown. Could be flooded, collapsed, or full of sensors. So, Tuesday, Bones said dryly. Morrison cleared his throat. I can't officially be part of an unsanctioned operation on American soil. Then leave, Tombstone said bluntly. However, Morrison continued, I can report that a training exercise will be conducted at Quantico tomorrow night, requiring all satellite surveillance of the eastern shore to be redirected. Sarah looked at him. That's your career if this goes wrong? My career isn't worth your daughter's life. Sterling stepped forward. We're coming too. No, all 4 ghosts said simultaneously. You need backup. We need you alive, Sarah interrupted. If this goes wrong, someone has to survive to tell the truth. That's your job. Document everything, protect the evidence, and if we don't come back, burn Webb to the ground legally. Park held up a tablet. I've been tracing financial records. Webb has been moving money for 20 years, but in the last week, he's liquidated everything. Nearly $1 billion transferred to untraceable accounts. He's running, Reaper observed. This is his exit strategy. Kill the last witnesses, grab his money, disappear. Sarah's voice was cold. Except he needs me dead first. I'm the only one who can connect all the dots. So we disconnect him first, Bones said. They spent the next 12 hours wargaming scenarios, each more lethal than the last. Rodriguez watched, fascinated and horrified by the casual way they discussed death. Finally, Sarah called a halt. 12 hours until the deadline. We move at sunset. Tombstone and Reaper take the silo tunnel. Bones overwatch from the tree line. I go in the front door. And if he just shoots you on sight? Rodriguez asked. He won't. Webb likes to talk, to explain how clever he's been. He'll want me to know I've been beaten. She smiled coldly. Ego. Every operator's weakness. 6 hours until sunset. Rodriguez found Sarah alone on the platform's observation deck, staring out at the water. Your daughter doesn't know about you, he said. How did Webb even find her? DNA database. Military collects samples now, runs genealogy matching for medical purposes. He must have run mine against the system, she sighed. I was so careful, but science caught up with paranoia. She's going to have questions after this. If she survives, she can hate me, as long as she's alive to do it. Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. My dad would have volunteered for this mission. I know, that's why I didn't tell him about Jessica. He would have insisted on protecting her, and it would have gotten him killed sooner. She looked at him. You have his stubbornness. Is that good or bad? Ask me tomorrow. Morrison appeared in the doorway. We have a problem. Volkov's been spotted. Sarah turned sharply. Where? 3 miles from the Huntington facility. He's working with Webb. Or working for himself, Sarah said thoughtfully. Volkov doesn't play well with others. Parkson's voice came over the intercom. Incoming call for Natasha Petrova, Russian intelligence verification. Sarah switched instantly into character, her posture changing, accent perfect. Da? The verification took 3 minutes, all in Russian. When she hung up, she was smiling. Webb bought it. He thinks Natasha Petrova is coming to sell him information about the Ghost Unit survivors. He's trying to recruit you to kill yourself? Sterling asked, incredulous. He's trying to get me in the open where Volkov can take the shot. Sarah checked her weapons. Change of plans. I go in as Natasha 2 hours early, before the deadline. While Webb's focused on me, the others extract Jessica. That's suicide, Morrison protested. That's the job. An hour until insertion. The team gathered for final preparations. Sarah had shed Natasha's disguise, returning to her base appearance, but wearing tactical gear that had seen better days. Remember, she told the ghosts, Jessica doesn't know who I am. Keep it that way. Tell her you are a rescue team sent by General Morrison. And if she asks about her mother, Reaper asked, tell her the truth. Her mother died in Belgrade 10 years ago. 30 minutes out. They loaded into different vehicles. Sarah in a black sedan playing Natasha, the ghosts in a nondescript van, Morrison's team staying at the platform to coordinate. Rodriguez watched them go, feeling helpless. Park put a hand on his shoulder. They know what they're doing. Do they? Or are they just really good at pretending? The Huntington facility sat on 50 acres of Maryland farmland, looking abandoned from the outside. Rusted fences, overgrown fields, buildings that seemed ready to collapse. The perfect cover for a black site. Sarah pulled up to the main gate as Natasha, letting the cameras get a good look. The gate opened automatically. They were expecting her. She drove slowly up the gravel road, counting guards. 6 visible, probably twice that hidden. The main building loomed ahead, a concrete structure from the Cold War era. Admiral Webb was waiting on the front steps, dressed in civilian clothes, but carrying himself with military precision. Ms. Petrova, thank you for coming. Sarah stepped out of the car, Natasha's accent thick. Admiral, you pay well for information. Indeed, shall we? He gestured toward the building. As they walked, Sarah cataloged everything. Cameras, angles, guard positions, escape routes. Webb led her to an office that had probably been an interrogation room once. No windows, one door, concrete walls. So, Webb said, sitting behind a metal desk, you claim to have information about Ghost Unit 7 survivors. Not claim, have? Sarah placed a tablet on the desk. 4 survivors, locations, current identities. Price is $50 million. Webb smiled. That's steep for information about dead people. They're not dead. They will be soon enough. He picked up the tablet, scrolled through the false data she'd prepared. This is interesting, but not worth $50 million. Then I leave. Sarah stood. Sit down. Webb's voice hardened. You're not going anywhere. Through the walls, Sarah heard it. A distant explosion. The ghosts had breached the silo tunnel. Webb heard it too. He pulled out his phone, then frowned. Communications are down. Problem? Sarah asked, still in character. Webb stood, pulled out a pistol. Yes, you. He fired, but Sarah was already moving. The bullet sparked off the concrete where her head had been. She rolled behind the desk as he fired again. Did you really think I wouldn't recognize you? Webb snarled. I trained you, Sarah. I know every move you make before you make it. Sarah laughed, dropping the accent. You knew Sarah Chen Matthews, but she died in Belgrade. She came up fast, the desk flying toward Webb. He dodged, but it gave her the opening she needed. Her knife found his gun hand, sending the weapon spinning away. They circled each other, both bleeding now. Why? Sarah asked. We trusted you. Trust. Webb spat the word. Trust doesn't pay for retirement. Do you know how little a career military officer makes compared to what we're worth on the open market? So, you sold us. I sold information. The Russians did the killing. Semantics. Another explosion. Closer. The lights flickered. Webb smiled. Your friends are walking into a trap. 300 pounds of C4 in the tunnel. Motion activated. Sarah's blood went cold. You're lying. Am I? In about 30 seconds, your rescue team becomes vapor. Sarah lunged at him, rage overcoming tactics. They crashed into the wall, grappling for control. Webb was older, but still strong, still trained. You always were too emotional, he gasped, fingers finding her throat. That's why you had to die. Sarah's vision started to darken. Then the door exploded inward. Volkov stood in the doorway, rifle raised. Step away from her, Admiral. Webb released Sarah, confused. Shoot her! Eventually. Volkov entered the room, weapon trained on both of them. But first, we discuss Belgrade. Specifically, who really gave the order. I paid you. You paid me to kill her here, yes. But 10 years ago, someone else paid me. Someone who wanted Ghost 6 dead but couldn't be connected to it. Volkov smiled. I think it was you. Webb went for his fallen pistol. Volkov's rifle coughed once, and Webb's knee exploded. He screamed, collapsing. Sarah, Volkov said conversationally, would you like to know the truth about Belgrade? Sarah was holding her throat, voice raspy. I know enough. Do you? Do you know Webb had your entire unit scheduled to be there? That the only reason they weren't was because of a transport malfunction he didn't plan for? Sarah stared at Webb, who was trying to crawl toward the door. You tried to kill us all at once. Efficiency, Webb gasped through the pain. One operation, no survivors. Volkov nodded. But you survived. And I got blamed for the failure. So, what now? Sarah asked. You kill us both? No. Now I collect 2 contracts. Webb's for killing you, and someone else's for killing Webb. Whose? Volkov smiled. Yours, actually. Or, rather, the emergency fund you set up in Prague 8 years ago. If anything happened to you, that money was to be used to find and eliminate your killer. Sarah laughed, short and painful. I hired you to avenge myself? Technically, your AI system hired me when you didn't check in for 72 hours. Very sophisticated. Volkov shifted his aim to Webb. Any last words, Admiral? Webb looked at Sarah, hatred in his eyes. Your daughter dies with you. I have men. Volkov shot him in the head. The room went silent except for Sarah's ragged breathing. Your daughter is safe, Volkov said. Your ghost friends are quite efficient. They avoided the tunnel and came through the roof instead. How do you... I have been watching. Professional interest. He lowered his rifle. We're even now, you and I. Belgrade is finished. Until someone else pays you to kill me. Perhaps, but my rates have gone up considerably. You're worth more alive as a deterrent to my enemies. He turned to leave, then paused. Your unit, Ghost 7, they were good people. Yes. I'm sorry they died. Sarah studied his scarred face. So am I. Volkov left. 90 seconds later, the ghosts arrived with Jessica Matthews in tow. She was unconscious but breathing, drugged but unharmed. Webb? Tombstone asked, seeing the body. Dead. You? Alive. Somehow? Reaper checked Jessica's vitals. She's okay. Won't remember much. Good. Sarah looked at her daughter's face, memorizing every detail. Get her out of here. Morrison can handle the official story. What about you? Bones asked. Zacht. Sarah stood, testing her injured throat. I disappear, for real this time. Sarah, Tombstone started. Ghost 6 died in Belgrade. Sarah Chen Matthews died in this room. There's nobody left to be. She walked out, leaving them with Jessica and Webb's body. Outside, she found Volkov's motorcycle waiting, keys in the ignition. A note was tucked under the windshield. Professional courtesy, DV. Sarah rode into the sunrise, no destination in mind. Behind her, emergency vehicles converged on the facility. The official story would be clean. Admiral Webb, exposed as a traitor, killed himself rather than face justice. Captain Jessica Matthews, kidnapped by foreign agents, rescued by Marine Special Operations. Nobody would mention ghosts. 3 days later, Rodriguez received a package at his quarters. No return address, no postmark. Inside was a photo from 2004. His father's squad in Iraq, faces dirty but smiling. In the background, barely visible, was a figure in unmarked fatigues, female, short, watching over them like a guardian angel. On the back, in careful handwriting, he was proud of you before you were even born. Stay safe, nobody. Rodriguez kept the photo in his wallet, next to his father's picture. Park's technical work led to the discovery of 12 more moles in the intelligence community, all connected to Webb's network. She received a commendation and a promotion. Sometimes, late at night, she checked obscure message boards, looking for signs, ghost stories. She never found any. Sterling became an instructor at Quantico, teaching tactical assessment. He insisted on adding a module about assumptions and prejudice, using an unnamed IT contractor as an example. His father's St. Christopher medallion hung in his office, a reminder that heroes don't always wear uniforms. Morrison retired 6 months later, full honors. His final report mentioned an unidentified civilian contractor who assisted during a crisis. Name unknown, current whereabouts unknown, existence unconfirmed. The file was classified beyond even his clearance level. Captain Jessica Matthews recovered fully, with no memory of her kidnapping beyond vague nightmares. She continued her career in Army intelligence, unaware that her guardian angel was still watching from the shadows. Every dangerous assignment she volunteered for was mysteriously redirected. Every threat that came too close simply vanished. The other ghosts disappeared back into their hidden lives. Tombstone running a food truck in Seattle that somehow had the best security system in the state. Reaper teaching self-defense to abused survivors in Miami, never mentioning her 143 confirmed kills. Bones working as a hunting guide in Montana, his rifle now only shooting deer, usually. Volkov was seen once in Prague, once in Moscow, once in Beijing, always alone, always watching. The intelligence community learned to leave him alone. He'd become something more dangerous than an assassin. He'd become a rumor with a body count. And Gwen Matthews? Sarah Chen Matthews? Ghost 6? She died in Belgrade. Everyone knows that. But sometimes, when national security is threatened in ways too delicate for official response, certain people receive anonymous intelligence. Perfect, actionable, impossible to trace. Sometimes, terrorists planning attacks find their operations compromised by someone who seems to know their every move before they make it. Sometimes, soldiers in impossible situations report a guardian angel who appears from nowhere, saves their lives, and vanishes without asking for thanks. Rodriguez saw her once, 2 years later. He was at Arlington, visiting his father's grave. A woman was sitting at William Sterling's headstone, talking quietly. Short dark hair, different face, moving like a civilian. But something in the way she stood when she noticed him, that perfect balance, that readiness. Their eyes met across the cemetery. She smiled, just slightly, and walked away. Rodriguez didn't follow. Some ghosts are meant to rest. Others are meant to watch over the living. He looked down at the headstone, then at the small fresh flowers someone had left. Not from a shop, wildflowers, picked by hand. The kind that grew near water, near marinas. "She's still out there, Dad," he said quietly, still keeping her promises. The wind picked up, rustling through Arlington's trees. For just a moment, Rodriguez could swear he heard something in it. Voices, perhaps. 43 of them, finally at peace. Or maybe it was just the wind. But in the shadows between the headstones, something moved, something watchful, something that had died so many times it had forgotten how to stop protecting the living. Ghost 6, still on duty, forever.
Thank you for watching REV Story. This channel shares stories of simple women who were often underestimated. So, if you enjoy quiet strange and powerful story, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and stay with us. See you soon in the next story.